Today's film is The Meg. It tells the story of that dangerous ocean predator which was believed to have become extinct 2 million years ago, but was actually still alive somewhere in the depths. At the beginning, people had captured a giant marine creature and brought it to the surface, and everyone was astonished to see it. Just then, a fat man went as a joke to take a photo with it, but suddenly fell into the water in fear because his friends had played a prank to scare him. Everyone was still laughing at him when suddenly a gigantic jaw emerged from the water, and in the blink of an eye, everyone realized that the real danger was in front of them. This was no ordinary creature, but the true king of the ocean, the Megalodon, which had once even devoured giants like the T-Rex. This gigantic shark was said to be approximately 21 to 27 meters long, and its biting force reached nearly 36 tons. Therefore, it was believed that no ordinary marine creature could satisfy such a huge appetite, and that was why this species became extinct on its own. However, some scientists believed that the species had not completely disappeared, but had hidden in the deepest parts of the ocean, especially beneath the place that people considered the ocean's ultimate depth. During their research, their team discovered that what was thought to be the ocean's final floor was actually a dense cloud of gases like hydrogen sulfide, and beneath that, perhaps an entirely different world might exist. To prove this mystery, a billionaire spent nearly $3 billion to assemble a deep-sea exploration team and sent a special submarine into that dark abyss. When the submarine crossed that mysterious cloud and reached the bottom, everyone rejoiced with happiness because thousands of unknown marine creatures were seen swimming before them, and it felt as if a new wonder of the world had been discovered. But their joy did not last long because suddenly the instruments began to give warnings, and on the sonar, a huge shadow appeared rapidly approaching them. Before they could understand what it was, a terrible collision occurred and the submarine system completely failed. Even their communication was cut off. The base above the sea only knew that the people inside were still alive, but they had at most 18 hours of oxygen left. Therefore, they urgently needed someone who had the courage to go down to a depth of 10,000 meters. Just then, everyone remembered a man named Jonas, whom people greatly respected for his strength and courage. 5 years earlier, he had saved 11 people at a similar depth, but he had been forced to leave some people behind, and they had all been killed. Therefore, when he said that a giant creature had attacked the submarine, no one believed him, and he was dismissed from the team. After that, he spent many years living quietly in a poor area of Thailand. During this time, Dr. Zhang came looking for him, and after a brief conversation, told him that some people were trapped in the deep sea, and they needed him to rescue them. At first, he flatly refused, but when he learned that his ex-wife was among the trapped people, he agreed to take on the mission. Meanwhile, the team trapped in the ocean depths was trying to repair their submarine, as the system had failed and the oxygen was rapidly depleting. After much effort, when they restarted the system, another powerful collision occurred, causing serious damage to the submarine, and oxygen also began to leak. Now they had barely 3 hours of air left. Therefore, a member of the team decided to take a risk and go down in a small glider to assess the situation. He slowly crossed the ocean's layers and reached his companions. He was about to attach a hook to rescue them when suddenly something huge collided with him forcefully. He somehow managed to control the glider, but the next moment, a giant octopus wrapped its long arms around his small glider and squeezed it so hard that pressure alarms began to sound. It seemed as if the glider would burst at any moment, but suddenly the octopus released ink and quickly retreated, as if it too was frightened by a greater danger. The glider pilot was just breathing a sigh of relief when a gigantic shadow emerged from the darkness before him, and the next moment the ocean's most terrifying predator appeared, the same megalodon that the world had believed extinct for 2 million years. That giant shark turned rapidly towards him and was about to attack when suddenly, from a distance, several flares, bright light signals, began to shine in the ocean, distracting its attention. This was Jonas, who had arrived just in time to help. He released one flare after another, driving the predatory shark away from them. Finally, with the help of the flares, they succeeded in escaping the megalodon, and Bin returned safely to the surface. On the other side, Jonas quickly located the trapped submarine, Kuvan, and began preparing to dock with it. As soon as he saw his ex-wife alive inside, a relieved smile appeared on his face. But as he was pulling her out, alarms suddenly began blaring from behind. The megalodon was rapidly approaching them again. Seeing this, the man with glasses understood that if anyone was to return alive, someone would have to make a sacrifice. So he quickly tore up his written final letter and put it in his young companion's pocket. Then, without hesitation, he closed the hatch, separated his submarine from the rescue pod, and as soon as the rescue pod moved away, he turned on all the lights so that the predatory shark would chase him and the others. could escape. Finally, Jonas brought the Cuvan submarine safely back to the base. The Megalodon was indeed extremely dangerous, but it only knew how to attack directly and did not display much cunning. Some people jokingly say that if compared to a smart or AI shark from a game, perhaps it would seem less dangerous, because a game shark patrols the depths, attacks by smelling injured prey, and uses various attack patterns. But the real story was not over yet. Everyone thought the danger had passed for the time being. Then one day, Binbin's daughter, who was playing at the base, saw something extremely terrifying outside the water and sat down in fear. Hearing the noise, Jonas and the others immediately ran over and saw that the child was badly frightened. When Jonas looked towards the nearby glass wall, he noticed a very large scratch-like mark on it. Suddenly there was a loud noise, and a huge whale came and collided with the glass. At first, everyone thought the mark might have been caused by the whale, but the next moment a horrifying scene unfolded before their eyes, because within seconds that whale was torn into pieces. Seeing this, Jonas realized that the Megalodon had followed them all the way up to the surface, because when their submarine had passed through that thermal layer, the water temperature had suddenly increased, and this giant had also come up through the same path. Just then, a new alert appeared on the radar. 3 boats, 32 kilometers away in the southwest direction, were simultaneously in trouble. Hearing this, the entire team set sail towards that area, and the sight that greeted them there was extremely terrifying. Shark fins cut off and human body parts were floating on the surface of the sea. At the same time, in the distance, the Megalodon was silently watching them from the depths. The team decided that to stop it, they first needed to attach a tracker to its body so that its location could be constantly monitored. Now the question was, how could anyone go near such a dangerous giant to attach a tracker? Binbin suggested that approaching it by ship would be the riskiest option, so someone should go directly into the water to do the job. After much discussion, everyone's eyes fell on Jonas, and he decided to take on this dangerous responsibility. After that, he took the tracker gun and jumped into the sea. As he approached the Megalodon, he came to the right distance, immediately took out the tracker gun, aimed, and fired. The dart went straight into the giant's body. As soon as the activation of the tracker was confirmed, the team above immediately began pulling Jonas back up with the rope. But this commotion had caught the Megalodon's attention, and it angrily rushed towards them at great speed. Jonas immediately dropped his heavy equipment and swam with all his might towards the ship. And thus began an extremely dangerous and thrilling Megalodon chase beneath the sea, where a single mistake could mean facing death directly. Just as Jonas was about to reach the boat, the Megalodon lunged from behind and, closing its jaws, tried to bite with great force. Fortunately, he escaped by a hair's breadth and somehow managed to climb onto the boat. Now that the tracker was attached, the next step was clear. This ancient giant had to be eliminated forever. Within a short time, the team prepared a special shark cage, and this time the experienced Binbin was sent down. He descended into the water inside that strong cage, while his companions above scattered bait all around. As soon as a crowd of fish gathered near the cage, the Megalodon, drawn by the scent of blood, also arrived there. Binbin immediately picked up the poisonous harpoon gun and began to aim. But just as he was about to fire, the shark suddenly turned and swam away. Binbin was still trying to understand what had happened when, the very next moment, the Megalodon returned at lightning speed and, grabbing the cage directly in its mouth, began to pull. Its strength was so immense that within seconds, the cage's grip loosened and the structure began to break. Taking advantage of that moment, Binbin fired the harpoon, and the poisonous dart embedded itself directly into the Megalodon's body. The shark, writhing in pain, released the cage and swam away. Binbin thought the danger had passed, but suddenly the Megalodon turned again, and this time it tried to swallow the entire cage. Seeing this from above, Jonas immediately put on his diving gear, jumped into the water, and grabbing the rope, began descending rapidly. After much struggle, the cage came loose. But during this, Binbin's oxygen tank broke, and the air began to run out rapidly. Seeing the situation worsening, Jonas immediately reached him, opened the cage, and pulled him out. But just then, the Megalodon lunged at them again, and it seemed as if both would become its prey in the next moment. Suddenly, the shark became entangled in the ropes and was stuck for a few seconds, giving them a chance to escape. A few moments later, the effect of the poisonous dart began to take hold, and the Megalodon's movements started to slow down. Finally, it became completely still. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Jonas brought Binbin up, and the team immediately began treating him. After much effort, they finally pulled him back from the jaws of death. When he regained consciousness and reached the deck, he saw that the giant predatory shark had been tied with ropes and pulled up. Just then, the fat man, in his excitement, began insisting on taking a photo with it. Suddenly, the shark moved and he fell straight into the water in fear. But the next moment, it turned out to be just a prank by his friends. However, the joke did not last long because suddenly, from beneath the water, an even larger shadow emerged. The next second, that giant lunged and swallowed the tied shark whole, also capsizing the boat. Then everyone realized that the creature they had killed was actually a baby megalodon, while the real giant was still alive. Now the situation had completely deteriorated. One companion, to give the others a chance to escape, began splashing the water vigorously, drawing the shark's attention towards himself. The megalodon grabbed him and swallowed him, then slowly swam away in another direction. The team took the opportunity to try to escape in small boats, but they had not even reached the shore when the shark came after them again. Just then, a rescue helicopter arrived in time and, using tracking signals, began firing at it. Sensing the danger, the megalodon quickly fled into the depths. After this, everyone returned safely to the base and immediately informed the world's governments about this danger. Given the seriousness of the situation, many countries decided to send help, and the base was also temporarily closed. But the real trouble was still to come, because at that same time on a beach, people were carelessly enjoying themselves, completely unaware that death was approaching them from under the water. Within a short time, the megalodon reached that area and, seeing the people swimming on the surface, suddenly leaped out of the water. It swallowed one person after another, and the sea filled with screams. Just then, Jonas threw a special ecological device into the water that emitted a sound like a dolphin. Hearing this sound, the megalodon's attention turned away from the humans towards that direction. Strong and Binbin immediately took a glider and descended into the water, and together they created a net-like enclosure around the device. Within moments, the megalodon arrived there and, in its rage, swallowed the device directly. But when it realized that it had been trapped, it immediately turned and lunged straight at Jonas. Jonas quickly turned the glider and, narrowly escaping its jaws, descended into the ocean depths, where he began a dangerous game of cat and mouse with the giant. After a while, the megalodon collided forcefully with the glider, creating a large hole in it. But during that time, Jonas succeeded in luring it towards himself so that the final confrontation could be prepared. Just then, Binbin immediately pressed the launch button. But surprisingly, even such a large bomb only managed to cause a minor injury to the megalodon. Seeing this, Jonas immediately turned on a flashlight and began drawing it towards himself, thinking that perhaps this giant could now be permanently eliminated. But suddenly, his equipment jammed, and the situation became dangerous in an instant. So Jonas quickly changed direction and somehow managed to escape from its gigantic jaws. Meanwhile, in the sky, several news helicopters were covering this major disaster live. People were watching it all with bated breath, but the next moment, another accident occurred. Two helicopters collided with each other, and a powerful explosion followed. At the same time, beneath the sea, Jonas was still trying to escape from the megalodon, which was relentlessly chasing them. Now there was no easy way to escape, so Jonas gritted his teeth and made a big decision. He increased the glider's speed to full power and began heading straight towards the megalodon. It seemed as if both were about to collide head-on. But at the very last moment, Jonas quickly turned aside and used the glider's sharp tail to slice open the shark's belly. This strike was so severe that the megalodon's abdomen burst open, and its body became drenched in blood. But at the same time, Jonas's glider also malfunctioned, and the enraged megalodon turned and lunged directly at him. In a single snap, it clamped the glider in its jaws, and with its tremendous biting force, even the bulletproof glass shattered. Within seconds, water began to fill the cockpit, and the situation became extremely dangerous. In that difficult hour, Jonas kicked the glass with all his might and somehow managed to escape through the broken cockpit. As soon as he got out, he immediately took out his harpoon and began waiting for the right moment. As soon as the megalodon came close, he aimed directly at its eye and thrust the harpoon with great force. Writhing in intense pain, the giant shark leaped out of the water, and taking advantage of that moment, Jonas embedded one harpoon after another into its body. Finally, that giant predatory shark, which should have become extinct 2 million years ago, was permanently destroyed by human hands. The smell of blood from its body spread rapidly through the sea, and within moments, real sharks began arriving from all sides to feast on the enormous carcass. At the same time, Binbin quickly arrived and pulled Jonas out of the water. Thus, this dangerous battle between humans and the megalodon finally came to an end. So, friends, this was the complete story of this film. If you liked this story, please do like it. We will meet again in the next story. End of story.